everybody, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going over some Easter and spring projects. So it's been late coming with this video, but I had to get ready for a big craft show myself. So these are some of the projects that we're going to be going over today. So you might want to pause here to go grab a pencil and paper. Our very first project, easy peasy garden stakes. Have you ever had garden stakes that you've put permanent marker on only to find out the first rainfall the marker wasn't permanent? That's why laser engraved garden stakes is, I think, a great idea. So here I am designing the file, and I was just showing you I put a white bounding box around everything, especially if I'm going to do engraving and cutting within the same file. So I just duplicate the files so they're exact. And here, I'm just getting rid of the stakes and leaving my text behind. So we're just going to zoom out here, and then I'm going to show you I can change the text to make it any vegetable or herb I want. So this is how it looks with the fills. So you've got your stakes and you've got your text. So I'm going to export the stake file part first, and I'm just going to show you this here because I am going to do it without a solid background. So I'm going to export it with a transparent background just to show you that it will actually work in LASERGRBL. So in case you forget to click on solid fill, LASERGRBL will still open it. Now, me personally, I will always click on the solid fill, again, especially if I am doing two files at the same time within the one file, if that makes any sense. You'll see as we go along, it does make sense. Okay, so I am opening up my stakes first, and I'm going to vectorize them. And this is going to be on cardboard. Okay, so we're going to reopen this file here. I'm going to take it to black and white. I have it on vectorize. I have it on no filling. And I have my smoothing on 0.5, optimize 0.5, my adaptive quality on. I never click on my optimized travel, to be honest. But you do have other options here for filling, crosshatch and stuff like that. I have heard that it's quite an interesting fill when you're engraving metal. But for today, we're using no filling. Now I'm doing cardboard, so my border speed is 2300 dynamic power, and I am using the 10A laser, and I only need 30%. I'm going to auto size that, and I'm going to create. And so that will trace out all my stakes. And if I find that it's going a little too much into the cardboard, I just click to the right hand bottom of the screen there, open up my sliders, and I can lower my power, my speed as I'm engraving. So I'm just going to open up the engrave file for the garden stakes. I just had a cat jump over my head there. Okay, so we're going to open up our text, and we're going to put that to line tracing. It's going to be black and white, horizontal. 7 lines is fine for the craft sticks. And I'm going to click on next. And for the engraving speed, I'm going to go 2200 millimeters per minute. And for my engraving, I'll type in under 850 here, which will come out at 85%. And I will not touch the auto size because it's going to be the same size as what we just outlined. So I've taken my cardboard, and once you use your vectorize tool and trace out your popsicle sticks or craft sticks, you can take this whole thing off. And what I found with it, because some of the craft sticks are a little wonky, I put some packing tape down, upside down, so I was able to tape the sticks right onto it. and they hold it down, because with your air assist, it likes to move the sticks as well. So then you take this whole template, put back on your laser engraver bed, open up your stick file again that you used the vectorize tool on, and you just frame where exactly you had your sticks placed, so that you're within the boundaries. Then, without turning off your machine, you would open up the engraving file with the text, press play, and away you go. And this is a neat idea if you're doing multiple jobs like coasters, stuff like that. Okay, project number 2 is my custom bunnies. Much like my ornaments, if you have been to my channel before. Now, the files for these bunnies are on DiSignsCdn, my Facebook group, if you are a subscriber to my channel here. And those files are free. So next we're going to do fairy doors and bunny bait. So I've actually laser engraved the card, and then I've actually laser engraved and cut out holders for the little glass vial jars that will slide right down into here. So you'll see that I engraved the bottom part of the fixture that I'm attempting to glue in right now. And I'll make sure I wipe off any excess glue, because I want to try and leave these natural instead of having to paint them to keep them at a lower price point. So you'll see my bottom one is a holder, and my top one is a piece that the vial will slip right in. And so with these guys, you could actually put in like cereal, stuff like that. And so same kind of mechanisms there that I use for the bunny bait, just a little bit smaller. So I use these as hinges for my fairy doors. And my fairy doors can open and close. Now, unfortunately, I had my phone overheat and get corrupted, so there's not any footage of me actually engraving the fairy doors. And this is also a good idea that, maybe you should make one before you go ahead and make 4, because I really wish I'd made that holder a little lower, because the jar fits in there pretty loose. But I think the bunny bait's pretty cute. And I think I'm actually going to do a fairy bait as well, and actually put butterfly garden seeds in there for the kids to sprinkle. I think would be a really cute idea. So this is how I designed up my fairy door file on 12.5 by 12.5 inch birch plywood blanks that I get. And I tried to utilize all space. So as you can see, there's doors within the frames, and I have all my mechanisms that I need. So the first one to the left hand side, that will be my engraving file. And there you can see better that I have my doors within frames, that I'm utilizing as much space as possible. So my right hand side, this is going to be my cutting file. So there's my little mechanism. And this square piece, of course, has to be the width and the depth of whatever material that you're cutting, as well as on that hinge part, that's got to be the depth of the material that you're cutting, and the circle has to be the depth of the material that you're cutting. And of course, all the bases that you'll see that I'm cutting as well has to be the width for the depth of the material that I am cutting. So first we're going to open up the file that I'm going to engrave. And I'm just going to use sharp, black and white, line-to-line tracing, horizontal, and 7 lines is absolutely fine. I'm just going to make that a little bigger for you guys to see. So with black and white, you do have a slider tool that you can slide along, because if your black and white isn't showing up, or if it's looking too chunky, you can use that slider tool. But for my purpose today, I'm just going to leave that at 100%, and I'm going to click on next. So for my engraving speed, I'm going to go 2800 dynamic power. My minimum is at 50, which equals 5%. My maximum is 950, which equals 95%. But I'm actually going to take that down to 900 apparently, and I'm going to click on auto size and create. And we'll let LASERGRBL work its magic here. Okay, so my engrave file is all ready to go, but I'm going to cut within the same file. So I'll go to the file, append file, and I will open up my cut file and click open. And then I have kept it on sharp. I'm just going to get this a little big. So I've kept it on sharp, black and white. I'm going to take it to vectorize. And I've got my smoothing 0.5, Optimus 0.5, adaptive quality on. You'll see that a lot of my settings are all the same throughout. As soon as you find the sweet spots for some stuff, stay with them. So for my cutting speed, I'm going to use 225 millimeters per minute. For cutting is constant power. Dynamic power is engraving, constant power is for cutting. 950% for my cutting. I am not touching the auto size, and I am going to click on create so that this will, engrave and then cut. And again, sorry, I lost all that footage. So just showing here that after I sand down some things that, might have a little bit of charring, because I do get that because I prefer to engrave deeper. And I'm engraving deeper because I like to paint a lot of my items. So it makes it a lot easier to paint stuff or sponge paint stuff if you've got raised levels. So once I'm done all painting, and I actually exterior clear coated each and every piece before assembly. This way they can go outside in gardens and last for many years to come. And here's my little secret weapon, is my magnifying glasses. And of course, any LOR fans out there might recognize this door. Now it's still a work in progress, but once I get it done and where I like it, I'll be sure to post it. Now, some of you may have already seen these guys. This is video number 23 on my channel. Laser engraving ramp walkers. Really, I love these guys. They're so cute. So I think they're project 5. I think we're on to project 6 now. MDF rounds. Now, if anybody knows me, I am not too fond of MDF, to be honest, but I found these blanks and I thought I would give them a chance. And so I actually engraved them with my 10A laser at 3200, at 850, which is 85%, 7 lines per millimeter. The pine ovals I did at 8 lines for the line-to-line setting, 2100 per millimeter, 850, which equals 85%. And of course, as you can see, I really like to paint my stuff. And now, project 9. I think we're on number 9. I'm losing count here. Our bunny boxes. Well, you could use them for actually anything. But this Easter, it's time to think outside the basket. Because those cheap little baskets that you're buying, disposable baskets, they're garbage. Literally garbage. So these rustic boxes can actually be used for Christmas gifts, Valentine's gifts, wedding gifts. It can hold a wine bottle, wine glasses. In your bathroom can hold bath oils, bath salts. There's just so many uses for them. So right now you've seen me cut the bottom piece, and I'm cutting the bottom and the 2 sides out of one piece, my very first piece, because this is making the whole width for the box, so they need to be equal. So it's very important. That's what I'm cutting those 3 pieces for my bunny box first. And I'm just measuring that up and cutting those. Okay, so this is actually 3/4 inch. It's either pine, but it seems a little bit too hard for pine. It might even be maple. Tongue and groove board. See in the background there, I have my table saw, so I've actually cut off the tongue and groove in order to repurpose these for bunny boxes. Now my bottom base I cut at 8.5 inches. The sides I believe are 7 to 8 inches. And my fronts then work out to just a little bit over 10 inches. So right now I'm just going 2 inches down on the sides and finding the center in order to drill my holes for the jute rope to be able to go through. So I will start with a smaller bit as my pilot hole, because when you're trying to do a bigger bit, sometimes it can slip on you. So it's just a lot easier to start with a smaller bit. So I will put my piece of wood down onto a scrap piece of wood and hold that firmly and press down, and you just don't get as much splitting as the drill bit is coming through that piece. You get a lot less splitting by having that piece of scrap there. So now I'm going to switch over to my bigger drill bit, and again have that piece of scrap board there, and there's my jute holes. And sorry, I realize this is completely out of camera focus, but it's not all going to be, I promise. So I am using the Type Bond 2 wood glue. I squeeze it on, but then I spread it out with my finger evenly as well, making sure I don't have any excess. And as you can see, when I'm putting the boards on, I slide them back and forth a little bit, because you'll start to get that tack working. And that just holds them up in place enough for me to get my corner edge jig on there to hold it all nice and firmly. Now I will be nailing this as well, but this is the most important part that has to be flat and square for the rest of the box to fit together. So that's why I will put a board underneath, and I will go get my little persuasion, which is a hammer, and I will just nail that to make sure all edges are flush. I'm fortunate to have an air nailer. I love this guy. I'm using 1.5 inch nails because, again, it's 3/4 inch wood, and I'm making sure the cartridge and the mechanism is empty of nails that I used prior, and that's why I will also test it out on a scrap block of wood, because if you've ever nailed a 1/2 inch item when there's still 2-inch nails left in the gun and you've gone through your finger, this is what you do from now on. Trust me. Now when I nail them also on a slight angle. That's going to keep your box a lot more stable. If your nails are straight, it's so much easier for the box to come apart. So I'm going to use my Titebond glue now and do the sides, the bottom, the other side, in order to put the front or the back on. And I'll spread that out with my finger to make sure it's a lot more even and there's not too much excess. And yep, I'll just wipe that off on my pants. So I will place it, and again, I slide it a little bit back and forth. I don't go too crazy because I don't want too much glue seeping out or, on the inside of the box. So I'm going to line that up as best I can. Let the tack kind of take over a bit. Now very, very carefully, because when you're pushing in your gun, you can actually move this off keister. So I will do one corner, and then I will line up and do the next corner. And again, make sure your gun is on an angle. And I will do center and the centers of those centers. Now my next step is, if it's moving pretty much freely, I will do the edge. Now for the other side, I actually did the center because it was a lot easier to nail by the center first and then get the outer corner. There I go, getting the center and the outer corner. And then I'll go back in and add a couple more. So I'm just making sure there's no excess glue, and I'm wiping that out right away. Now, my other board, I knew there would be a slight overhang on it because I hadn't shortened it yet, because I wait till the box is almost complete to make sure I cut it, that it's completely flush. So now I can finally go in with my final sand, because I only ever finished the inside of the box by starting with a 40 grit, 80 grit, 120 grit, 220 grit, and then a 320 grit. And so now I will do the same exact thing to the outside of the box. And I finish off with a 320 grit, and I'm also making sure there are absolutely no sharp corners, because these are going to be little kiddos possibly running and collecting eggs. I do not want any sharp corners that if they fall or trip, would not be a good thing. And now before I engrave my box, my laser needs a little bit of maintenance. So I'm just showing you, yeah, it's got a little bit of soot to it. So right now I'm just taking a condensed air can. You can get this from any office supply store. I got mine at the dollar store. And I'm just spraying out the fan. And yeah, do this regularly, because if the soot builds up, your laser is going to overheat. So you want to make sure that fan is doing its job. Now the nozzle can be a little pain in the butt to come off. So I just use some of my rubber grip shelf liner, and I'm able to get that nozzle off a lot easier. Okay, so I will just set those down very gently, very carefully. I'm going to get my rubbing alcohol ready and my Q-tips ready. There we go. I just dab, and I very, very carefully wipe off the lens with the rubbing alcohol part, and then go back in with the clean, dry one. So just very gently. It's kind of amazing how one teensy tiny little spot that you don't see can make a difference on your laser focus. And so I am also going in and cleaning my tip, because any soot buildup and stuff like that, can make your laser beam unfocused as well. So as you can see, I do have the slider tool, and I have the Z height adjuster on my machine. And that's because my machine is always raised, as you can see, with the legs. So now it's time to get my bunny box finally focused. So with the drop down kickstand, I will go along and make sure it is all level. Okay, so I found my highest point. And so then I will go in and take little wedges and adjust this. Here and there. Sometimes you only just need like a thick piece of cardstock. And hopefully I get this set up pretty soon. There we go. A little thick piece of cardstock. A couple more pieces. There we go. Double checking. And we're ready to go. So this is my design for the front face of the box. And I did a few designs and sent to the customer, and this is what they decided they would like to look at. So I made double sure of my measurement of my front face of my box. And I also used about a 1/4 inch border all the way around, because I want to try and avoid any nails. So as soon as I've got that to the size that I like, I will center it and center it. And I'm just going to get rid of that border. I'm also going to make the bounding box white. Send that to the back. And I'm also going to get rid of the pen outline, because I don't want it to engrave. And there we go. I'm ready to export the file. Now me personally, when I'm exporting it, I export it as the PNG signs, and I have lots of different folders. It's just a lot easier to find the files when you have a lot of them. So again, I'm going to keep that as a solid color. It's 300 DPI, sizing is 1:1, and I'm going to export that. There we go. We're going to get into LASERGRBL, and this is version 4.94. And there we go. I will go to my PNG signs and my Easter and my bunny boxes. And there's little Orble's box. So I'm taking it off black and white because the eyeballs there, I want to engrave a little bit with gray. So it's not as high as the white level, but it's not as low as the black level, if you get what I mean. And so I'm going to go line to line tracing, and 8 lines is absolutely fine. I switched off the black and white, so I do have the grayscale. And you saw me play with the brightness and the contrast sliders until I got it to where I wanted it to be. And I'm going to click on next. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm actually going to go into Smart Crop on the bottom of the screen there. Click that. And there you go. Smart Crop just, well, crops it down. And then I will click next. Ha-ha! Okay, so for my engraving speed, I am going to go with 2,500 millimeters per minute. Dynamic power. Because remember, constant power is for cutting, dynamic power for engraving. So my minimum, I have at 50, which is 5%. And the max, I'll type in 950, which equals 95%. And I'm going to auto size that so it stays the exact same size that I've designed it as. And then I've clicked next. So there we go. Oh, I think he's going to turn out so cute. Okay, so I'm already connected because it would say connect, but it says disconnect. So I am already connected. And there we go, some screen-on-screen action. So on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you'll see I am jogging my laser. And I will use the blue slide bar there to either go up if I want it to toggle it faster, or I slide it down to fine-tune it. And I've got my glasses on before I am set to frame. So make sure you click on the Set Origin button, which is the globe there with the little red doohickey pointer. That is your set origin. So this is my little trick here first. This is not where I'm going to engrave, but because I've taken out my spoil board with any measurements on it or anything like that, I'm using this first frame to just go around the edge of my box, because this way I know I have it straight. So after I know that I have it straight, that's when I'll fine tune it so that it's in the center of my work. And yes, I could have used the center option, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. But this way, I know that I have it absolutely straight. So I'm going to my blue slider bar, bottom left-hand corner there of the screen, and I will slowly start to toggle over, set the origin and frame, because again, I want to try and avoid any nails, and I want to make sure my graphic is well within the front cover there. And then I'll know if I actually have to resize the graphic down maybe a couple millimeters as well. And I'm just going to skip ahead because I did a couple more little tweaks, framed it, so now I know it's exactly where I want it to be. Now, before I engrave, I can also hit the right-hand bottom corners to open up those sliders again, so if it's not dark enough, I can either raise the power or lower the speed. So there, we've got it going. It's as dark as I'd want it. So I'm just going to close my enclosure. And you'll notice at the front of my enclosure, I do not have my Corplast slid all the way closed because I want to allow for airflow so the air exhaust is doing its job. So I'm just going to open it up because we're almost done here. Now I'm showing you the orange filter that you get with the glasses when you get with the machine. These are the better glasses that you can order online. It is a much better filter. Of course, this is without a filter, and this is not good for your eyeballs. All right, we are done. And I'm going to turn off my machine. And I'm going to very gently Push that back. And here we go. So there is the box, all completed engraving, nice and deep. And so you can see with the grayscale there, it's not as high as what I didn't engrave, but it's not as low as the black. And this is it, all sanded, vacuumed out, and it's all ready for paint. So you may have noticed that I like to engrave very deeply. Number one, I think the effect is almost like a routed look. And when you're engraving this deep, it almost gives you a sandblasted look. And people pay big money for sandblasted signs. Okay, last and final project, I think, is trays. Now, my first photo that I had the title pop up, I nailed from the top. So just showing you that I make mistakes too, so you guys don't have to. The trays look so much better if you nail them from the bottom. Now, before gluing and nailing your trays together, I do recommend drilling the holes and affixing your handles to the side pieces first, and then gluing and nailing your trays together. This way, the holes are not showing through the bottom of the board. It's just through those two side pieces that you're putting on afterwards. And this way, I'll also use for my noodle boards, and those are the stove covers, and they just look so much nicer this way. So here I am sponge painting, and I'm just using the acrylic craft paint, and I water down the color that I want quite a bit, and using the cosmetic sponge, I'll let it soak up a little bit, and but then I dab off the excess, and then very gently, I hardly use any pressure on the sponge whatsoever. I'll go around any graphics that I've engraved. So I just use this method for going around the graphics, and then I will use a paintbrush for the rest of the tray. Now, I lost footage as well on how I gave this the vintage look, but I used acrylic white craft paint with a brush, dabbed my brush in the paint, wiped off the excess paint, so that it was just like a dry brush method, and just by using the side of the brush, I pretty much like wipe it across the board in order to get this vintage look. Okay, I think we're getting close to the end here. So right now I am just finding the center mark of the top board of my tray. And I have it on my laser bed, but I have it up on blocks, of course, because the handles overhang. I cannot stress enough, make sure you brand your work. Each and every item is an opportunity to get more orders. And I thought I'd take this opportunity to show you the center function. So, of course, for my particular logo, I've already picked the size, designed the files, what I'm going to do. I already know my engraving speed, my laser mode, the power that I want. I've already clicked on auto size for the proper size. Now I'll click on that center button. Okay, reset means it's not on center. If you see 00 there, it's going to find the center of my graphic. So yes, you will have that negative offset message come up. But you're going to click on yes, because you are going to jog your laser to the center point that you've marked on your material, so that it knows that the center part there that you see in the middle of the bullseye, that's the center of your work. So you'll toggle your laser up into the port to the center point of your material. You'll click on the frame button as well. Make sure you're close. As soon as you get on point there, set your origin button, click on that, and then you've got your center point, and your laser will work from there. So yes, I really cannot stress how important it is to brand any of the projects that you're doing. When a customer orders a gift for someone, when that someone opens up the gift and says, "Oh wow, that's cool. Where did you get it from?" They won't say, "Oh, I got it from some lady at a craft show," or "Oh, I got it through a friend." This takes the guesswork out when they flip the item over, or if they have friends that ask, "Where did you get that from?" Your logo is right there for them to see and for them to look you up on Facebook or on the internet. So, really, for the couple of minutes that it takes to put your brand on, I mean, you're going to make that back in sales, guaranteed. And what I do is if I have multiple projects on the go, I leave branding all those items for at one time so that I just throw one project in after the other and do multiple projects with my logo on it. And of course, I like to engrave my logo in there nice and deep so nobody can just as easily sand it off. And poor little ladybug, well, she doesn't quite get down in the grooves enough, so that's why I've, put up a little shark back up there, and it does a lovely job. And I found a dresser at the side of the road and decided it needed a facelift. I had an upcoming craft show, and really, you only have one chance to make a first impression. So instead of just a boring old table with a tablecloth, I wanted to make a unique display. So here it is, set up the night before the craft sale. Excuse the mess of my living room. We have cats. We can't have nice things. But plus, I've been busy. So I set it up. I took photos of how I set it up so that when I got to the craft show, I could easily reset it up very quickly. And so as I packed the items up, I was able to price them. And I made and laser engraved my own little tags to put on each and every item. And I removed the tags, of course, once I sold the item because I only had the backs of them marked with pencil. But I thought it looked so much more professional than using like a little piece of cardstock. But then, of course, because I used pencil, I can just give it a light sand off and use those price tags again. So I think I'm getting there. This is only my second vendor show. There's my darn cats. They're inspecting everything. This was one of my first vendor show. I learned a lot from that one. This was my setup now at my second one. I definitely could have used another table because I had a booth. Now, terrible video there, but I really like this idea of the steel shelving. And then using like steel grates on the sides so you can actually hang your items to that. Looks very sturdy and I like it. And that's it for today. Oh my gosh, I know it's a long one, but I hope this video helps and inspires you guys. That was a lot of work to get a couple weeks worth of work down to a 38-minute video. So I hope you guys appreciate the work that I put into the videos. And we are so close to the 1,000 subscribers. So please smash that subscribe button so YouTube is sharing the wealth with the advertising that they stick into my content. Okay, guys, that's it. Go create.